Okay. All right. You ready for me to get going?
Yep, I just started the recording, so you are good to go.
Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. This is the Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting of Thursday, August 10th, 2023. Called to order at 1:02, and I'll go ahead and do roll call. Terry Majewski is here. Joel Ireland.
Here.
Carol Griffith.
Here.
Savannah McDonald.
Here.
And Commissioner Mulder is not here today, but we have a quorum with 4. So the second item is approval of legal action report and minutes for the meeting of July 25th. Now, Jody, I just sent that to you and Michael, the initial draft, so we just say that we're not voting on that today.
Yes, you're going to trail it to the next meeting.
Okay, and just for benefit, especially Carol and Savannah, I did send you the notes if you could look at those, because there were a lot of motions that you guys made, and I just need to be sure. I did listen to the entire recording, but sometimes it's interesting how the transcription even drops words and stuff like that. So tell me if you think they're okay. All right, go ahead, and we'll start on item 3, which is historic preservation zone review cases. And we review these under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0.0 Historic District Design Guidelines and the revised Secretary of the Interior Standards and Guidelines. Now, case 3A is FD 0523-00057 337 North Court. This is remodel of the west facade of the house. It's a full review of the El Presidio Historic Preservation Zone. Jody, do you have any background on this case?
Yes, so this project was heard on June 22nd with the El Presidio Historic Zone Advisory Board, and they made a recommendation to approve the project as presented. Then they actually made a second one because they had a discussion about the gutter, which was to add a gutter to protect the back facade above the exterior rear door, and that was also passed unanimously. I screwed this up last time. Axel, thank you, Golden is here to present the project.
So Axel Golden, is that AXEL Golden, GOLDEN?
Yes.
And who are you with, Axel?
I am consulting with Sharia. It's Quadro Design.
Can you put that in the chat when you get a chance?
Sure.
Okay, great. And you want to go ahead and present your project, please?
Sure. Okay.
Quadro Design. Okay, and you're an architect, Axel?
No, I'm not licensed yet.
Okay. That's fine. All righty.
Okay, let me share my screen. Just give me a minute here.
Okay.
It says it's disabled.
Joe, can you enable that?
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Hold on just a minute. Let me make you a co-host. It should, I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share now. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's all right. Okay. Can everyone see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So this project is on 337 North Court. It is a Anglo-territorial building with the pyramidal roof. The prevailing types in the development zone are this type, an Anglo-territorial, which is commonly set back in the property. And the other types are the Sonoran row houses, which are all adobe. This is a view of the house. It's made out of this concrete molded block. It has cast in place sills and headers, and it has this, railroad style pyramidal roof, front porch entry. Defining characteristic of the front is that, like I said, again, it's set back from the street. In the back, it has this porch, what we believe to be a porch, and it was enclosed at some point. I don't know the exact date. If you go back on the photos, the aerial photos, it seems to have been enclosed as far back as you can see it. I think Jody actually might have a date exactly when it was enclosed, but there are a few other houses, not exactly in the development zone, but just outside of it, obviously still in El Presidio, that have almost the exact same floor plan, and they have a back porch like this as well. The thing about this house is they have moved at some point they moved the kitchen back here. So this whole area is a kitchen, and it really doesn't, it's very old. The floor is wood, it's sloped.
Period.
So it doesn't, it's not serving as a very good kitchen right now. So it really needs to be remodeled. So in that process, what we did is we moved some windows over here, and then we deleted this door. Here's the house on the map right here. So this is Court and Main right here, and this is the house. There's a row house right next to it here, and then there's a non-conforming territorial house here right next to it. So here's the UDC standards. For the alterations, we're just changing the back facade openings. That's it. We're going to keep the stucco is going to be the same. We're not going to touch the eaves. The eaves are going to stay. The roof line's going to stay. The footprint of the building is remaining. We're going to conserve the block stem wall that's visible on the base of the house. Here's a view. Two views I thought were the best. I decided to share them in the presentation here. You can see the enclosure in 2018 back here. Okay, so here's the renderings proposed below. You can see the two, well, there's 4 new windows here to create a corner kind of nook, breakfast nook. We're going to move this door over to the left just a little bit, and we're going to close up this door and close up these 2 windows. And we're going to keep like I said, again, we're going to keep this roof line with the exposed eaves. We're going to keep the roofing is not going to be touched. None of that will be touched. In fact, the whole wall framing will just exist as is. We're just going to open up and put new headers here. And then we'll just infill frame here, and we'll match the stucco as needed to make it look. So it's more of a preservation project. One thing that the Presidio Review Board gave us is that they would like us to clean up these electrical lines and this plumbing stack here. So that's also going to be part of our drawing, our plumbing and electrical drawings, is to clean this up and just have some I think a main plumbing vent here, and then a main plumbing vent on the other side where the washer and dryer will be. So that'll be all off of the wall and then put within the existing framing and furred out as we need to on the inside. We're gonna use new windows, but they'll match this double hung simple wood frame style here. Same with the door. It'll be a new simple wood frame door. Here's some existing photos again of the sides. You can see the characteristics of the building. There's an existing shed back there. It looks like just a manufactured shed that'll exist in the corner. Here's as-built elevations. Here's proposed elevations on the right. Here's some surrounding photos across the street. These are some newer, I think maybe the 70s or 80s. These were built to look like row houses. Here's the row house, the historic row house next to the building here. Here's the building we're talking about today. And so here's the three houses I found here down the street on Franklin. They have the exact same floor plan. You can see this one on Franklin has the same, Queen Anne little galley in the front. And all three of these have them, and they all have porch in the back, just like this one. And all three of them have, slightly different enclosures. I would imagine they were probably enclosed to suit the owner over the years. This one looks like it has a door and then sort of a knee wall that wraps around. You can see it down here. And then it's just infilled with screens and windows. Maybe it was a sleeping porch. You can see that knee wall kind of down here, really blurry. But all these houses also have simple wood frame windows, and they have this simple exposed wood eave here. Here's the house in the register from 1970 around. They documented the house here. They called it a single-story late Anglo-territorial dating to 1905, molded concrete block. That's all. They didn't give us any more information. And that about wraps up my prepared information. Does anyone have any questions about what we're doing?
Yeah, let's go ahead with questions. Who would like to start?
I'll start. I mean, my only question is, do you have a floor plan? Do you know what the structure of the addition is? Are there original posts and everything still there?
Well, we haven't opened it up yet. I do have a floor plan for my construction documents. They're right here. We are going to open up the framing and then insert new framing to make these new openings as needed. So we don't know what it is because we can't quite open it up yet. But the implied method of the construction documents will be to preserve the wall, but just open it up as we need to and provide new headers to insert the doors and windows.
To provide a little bit more background, I was looking at the Sanborn maps. In 1909, it had no back porch. In 1919 through 1949, it still shows up as an open rear porch. So whenever the enclosure happened, it happened after 49. I only on my computer, I only have up to 49. In the office, I actually have books to later. And I'm not in the office today, but it was enclosed after 49.
Thanks, Jody. So is the slab flat? They must have done that when they did the enclosure.
It's a wood framed floor in there.
Okay.
So it's a porch floor.
So are you doing anything with the porch?
We'd like to level it at minimum. But I think we're gonna take, the client would like to take the least path of least resistance and be most cost effective. So I think he would prefer it to be concrete. However, I'm gonna meet with him today right after this. Funny enough, we were going to talk about that today, and this meeting came up just before. But I think at minimum we would level the floor and put a new subflooring at the maximum, we would remove all the flooring inside and pour concrete. But I don't see that happening because it's gonna be too thick, I think, to match the stem wall. Unless we infill it with dirt or whatever, but then I'd be concerned of it, blowing out, becoming a retaining stem wall rather than. So I think we're just going to level it with a new subflooring was the idea. Would that concern the historic board?
No, I think there's just, it looks like we see the slab edge on the exterior, right? Is that, it looks like exposed, stone or something? Is that the case? Do you know what that is? Or
I
is that
think
just
it's
concrete?
I think it's
Okay.
concrete. I had also
Right.
thought it was like a stone detail, but I think it's concrete, and I think inside there's wood framed floor.
Okay.
And
And so you're removing both sets of stairs and putting in a new set just a little bit further to the side, is that right?
yeah, I think we'd like to keep one of them.
Well, you're
And
showing a
because
door in a different location now though, right?
Yeah, I think we'd like to, like, if we could actually move that, it looks pretty simple. If we could actually move it, that would be nice, but yeah, then otherwise we'd replace it to match it. Like this.
And the water heater exterior closet, it looks like it goes away in your proposed renderings, but in your proposed elevations, it's still there.
No, it'll be there. Yeah, I didn't have it in the Revit model this time, but it's good. That's gonna stay there.
Okay.
Yeah, Savannah, wouldn't you think that that should be on the final plans?
Yeah, I think we're just missing basically a demolition and a new plan of the porch for this review. But obviously you have it, it just wasn't included in our materials, and I would have answered some of those questions.
Yeah, I submitted it at the same time. Here's the demo plan.
Okay, that was it for me.
Okay, thank you, Savannah. Who would like to go next, Carol or Joel?
Savannah kind of covered mostly everything. The only other thing I was wondering is the existing window, and I noticed there's one, some in the front too. They look like they're in bad condition. Is there any possibility of using the existing window in there anyplace else, or is it too far gone?
Is that a question for me?
I
Yeah.
think it is actually, yeah.
I suppose we could use it, but do you think it would match the new ones? Or do you
Yeah,
think it'd be a
probably
little?
not. I don't know if it's in better condition than some of the ones on the front that maybe it could be replaced. I don't know. It just, I don't know what the condition of them. It looks a little rough, but.
Yeah. I think what we'd like to do is basically, it's such a simple wood technique here. That it's very easily replicated. And so it would be nice to preserve this. If it's like a nice Douglas fir or something, maybe we could remove it and apply it here. But I think that's yet to be known until we start taking it apart. I'm sure the wood frame, the frame of the double hung might be
Yes.
viable. Might be, yeah. I think my only concern would be matching it with the others. So at that rate, it might be
might look strange. And there's no window. It looks like they boarded up this other one.
Yeah,
There's nothing in there.
yeah. No, I didn't see anything.
Hmm.
Because from the inside, it's covered as well, so. I can bring that up today, about the possibility of keeping these.
I mean, commissioners, what we could do is if we felt that was important, we could say that if possible, retain and reuse that window. Jody, is that something that could be discussed in a minor review or that you could just look at?
I would not make this a minor review. Bear in mind this, I mean, this is the rear of the house. This was enclosed after 49.
Yeah.
It's outside of the period of significance. This
Yeah,
is,
Right.
I think we should
All right.
try to make a decision on the windows or not.
Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion, but it doesn't have to be everyone else's. You know. Okay, other questions, Carol?
No, that was it. I did have one about the hot water heater, but he already answered that, so.
Okay, great. Joel?
Yeah, I did have a question for Jody. That's the significance of the Sanborn map comment is, I take it that the 49 date kind of loosens the, well, I don't know, options for the homeowners. Was that what that was about, Jody?
to understand if this was original to the house, or if it's not original to the house. Back porches are pretty common for enclosure. They get, that's like the easy, it's like a carport. It's like an easy enclosure kind of thing because the roof and some structure is still there. So it was just trying to understand what this was, and it was not originally built based on the Sanborn maps as a porch at all. There was nothing there in 1909. So this is definitely an add-on later and then enclosed later on too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was the reason for the comments about the Sanborn maps, just to understand the history of it.
Yeah, that was, I had that written down as a question. Yeah, and I appreciate that. The other thing I had was, well, I have a couple things, but the other one was about the proposed door. And a comment, I think, Axel, you said it was going to be a wood frame door. Do we have a
Yeah.
picture of that or what that's going to look like at all? I guess I don't know what you mean by a wood frame door.
Well, it would be similar to this. The prevailing style in the development zone shows simple wood framed doors and windows. And so the idea of that would just be to continue the spirit of that and use these simple, wood.
So the rails and stiles will be a thicker thickness of wood, and then you'll have a panel inside that's thinner. Is that the idea?
Yeah, so the wood is what is where the stucco will come and stop around it.
Uh-huh.
And I think that'll carry on the spirit of the.
Sorry, just to clarify, I mean, I think Joel is talking about the door itself, not the frame. You're showing a flat flush panel, and maybe I have it wrong, Joel, but
You're right.
I think he's asking if there's more to that detail.
No,
So it is a flat panel door itself rather than because I kind of think that the wood frame door that I was describing, where like the stiles and rails of the door are, inch and a half or inch and 3/8 or something, then the wood panel in there is thinner so that it has, the door itself has kind of a frame look to it. Rather than just a flat panel door. But that was my question, really. I think Savannah got it right.
Okay.
So was it planned to be a flat panel door or a?
Think it's
Yeah, it's just,
like plain like this, correct?
yes.
Okay, well, as one board member, and I'm just the one, and I'd prefer to see that other detail, but I understand it is a back porch too, so.
What was the detail you were referring to?
Well, I don't know how to describe it except a frame door,
Be a one panel door, so basically
Yeah.
it would look like there would be an inset, like, right, Savannah, is that how to describe?
Yeah, I mean, a 2 or 3 panel style and rail door just has a little more visual interest than a flat slab. And I would guess that there's a precedent for that in the development zone. So I'm with Joel. I would prefer to see more detail to that door, but also it's a back door. So I guess I could go either way.
Oh, that's what you're talking about, right?
there you go, there, Joe, that's the frame door I'm talking about, exactly.
Okay.
So this would be a 1 panel versus a flat slab. But you could do a 2 panel or 3 panel. I mean, there's lots of options with.
Yeah, I would like to see that a more detailed door, either one flat panel Savannah's describing or 2 panel. Anyway,
Thanks for that suggestion. I think that's a great suggestion.
so if it's possible, I guess I would go along with the motion that said, maybe may have a more detail in the back door, so.
Okay.
Others agree.
Okay, other questions?
No, that was the.
Okay.
Oh, my other thing on the door is I noticed the one door that we're removing has a security gate on it. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Putting a security gate back there.
No.
No, okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments before we get a volunteer to make a motion? And also, we need clarification on this. What was the motion that El Presidio wanted, the add-on about the gutter?
They motioned to, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, they just were talking about where the water goes, and so they made a motion to install a gutter above the rear door area, so it'll direct water away.
Mhm. Would that be across the whole back of the addition? And then
It could
down
be.
the side with the rain leader?
Yeah, it could be.
All right, so who would like to make a motion? Savannah, are you up for it?
I'll do it. Does everyone concur with what's been said, what's been vocalized about the gutter and the door? I think that was the only 2 items.
And then we wanted to be sure that the water heater and stuff is on the final proposed plan,
Okay.
don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Is that
electrical
something
cleanup,
that
the electrical cleanup.
Hmm?
The electrical cleanup, they talked about.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And piping, when that was on which side was that? Sorry.
Guttering
South
above,
elevation,
guttering above the door, yes.
electrical and plumbing.
That wasn't on the rear, on the west. It was a different, which facade is that on the actual?
I think that was on the south.
Yeah.
Clean up electrical on south facade.
Yeah, okay.
So we.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
All right, I'm good. Sorry. On the matter of SD /0523/00057 at 337 North Court Avenue, I move to recommend approval of the project as presented, including inclusion of a gutter on the porch, a stile and rail door with at least one panel for the new door, that the water heater be shown and included on the final proposed plan, and that the electrical and plumbing that's exterior on the south elevation be cleaned up.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, is there further discussion of the motion? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and call roll. Terry votes aye. Savannah,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
Carol.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 4-0. And Axel, are you familiar with the next steps, or would you like Jody to review them with you?
I would like to view them. I'm not familiar.
Okay,
So both the recommendation of the El Presidio and the Plans Review Subcommittee will be forwarded to the Director of Planning and Development Services. They will issue a decision letter. That decision letter, from the date of that decision letter, you will have 14 days to appeal. Appeal could be done by you or the property owner, because you represent the property owner or the property owner. It could also be done by the Plans Review Subcommittee or the El Presidio. It cannot be done by an individual from El Presidio Advisory Board or an individual from the Plans Review Subcommittee. They would have to hold a special meeting to agree to appeal. They'd have to make a motion for that. And there's a fee, and you have to get it to the city clerk within that 14 days if you decide to appeal, and then it'll go to mayor and council. You cannot get a permit issued during that appeal period, nor could you get one while it was in appeal going to mayor and council. If there are no appeals, then after the 14-day appeal period, you can finish out the permitting. You would just need to address any conditions that were noted in the decision letter and revised plans.
Okay.
okay, any other questions, Axel?
I think just to clarify the 14-day period, as long as we're okay with the letter, then that you can just let that lapse. That doesn't affect the permitting, or does the permit have to be?
You can, if there's no appeals, then you're just good to go. We would let you know if we got an appeal. We would let you know if there was a meeting scheduled to discuss a potential appeal, because it is a public meeting. So we let you know so you can attend and see what's what. But
Okay.
for the record, we get very few appeals. I've had one since I've been here, 5 years.
But Jody, basically, I think it's from the time that we do the minutes here and the letter gets written, and the director makes a decision, it's usually about 2 weeks, and then the 14-day period starts.
The 14 days is from the date of the decision letter.
Yeah, so it's whenever that decision letter, and that isn't instantaneous, Axel, just because, there are other steps that have to go on, like internally, like reviewing the meeting notes and doing the minutes and all that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the question was like, do we have to wait for the 14 days to submit the permit to request for the new permits?
You do not. You have to address any conditions that are noted in the decision letter, and your permit will not actually be issued until that 14 appeal period is done. Because if there's an appeal that happens, then it kind of stops everything in its tracks.
Great, cool, crystal clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Okay, let's move on to case 3B, which is SD 0523 00053 at 350 North Main. This is for construction of a rear addition to the main house. It's a full review in the El Presidio Historic Preservation Zone. It's a non-contributing resource, but we'll be using the rehabilitation standards. Jody, do you have background, please?
Yes, this project was also heard at the same El Presidio meeting of June 22nd. It was recommended for approval as presented, with the caveat that any additions that support the equipment not be visible from the street. And Bob Vint is here to present.
Great, thank you. Bob, hello. Would you like to go?
Oh, hi.
Go
let me jump back in. I was on my computer finishing a report here, so. Okay, yes, I'm back. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everybody, most of whom I know. Hey, Joel. So while I've got your attention, you may recall that a year ago, I was back in front of you with another design for the same client, Joe and Peggy Wilder. It was a little detached casita guest house, which we had approved through the neighborhood and through this august body. And then we got some cost estimates, and then the client said, well, I think maybe we'll shelve that project for a while. And but we do want to add this room for all of our books. They're both retiring from the university. They need a library for their extensive collections they're bringing home from their offices on campus. And so I've got a little design to show you, which is basically, I think, the first combination library laundry in the history of architecture. But before I launch into that, I wanted to ask Jody a question. I don't know if you got my email a couple days ago. Now that we've shifted gears and gone and designed the library laundry, I met with Joe and Peggy on Saturday. They said they're thinking of building the guest house. But we stopped working drawings on that when they shifted direction. And the only complication there is that our historic approval expires, I think, on August 29th, because that's 1 year since the planning director's letter. My question is, Jody, is there any process for an appeal to extend that approval for 6 months so we could get the working drawings done?
I think in the past, and Michael can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the past, we've just had an official request from you and it gets extended like 6 months.
Okay, great. That's a relief. I told Joe and Peggy I would inquire. That's a good answer, because I know with building permits also, you can extend them once for 6 months, right? So
Yeah.
kind of a, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Also, hi, Savannah, are you still there, Savannah?
Sure am.
Oh, hi. I just want to mention my grandson, Henry, was in the 2nd grade with your daughter over at Drachman School last.
No way. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And I actually got invited. They had a project designing zoo environments, and I was asked to show some of the work I've done at the Desert Museum. And so your daughter, whose name I don't remember, said, "Oh, my mom's an architect." I said, "Oh, really?" So anyway, she's a great young kid. It was nice to see the next generation.
Very
And-
cool. Yeah, she mentioned to me as well. It's a cool small world.
It is a small world. It's a very small world. Okay, am I good for screen sharing?
Yeah,
Am
there
I-
you go.
Okay, cool. Let's do a slideshow. The thing is, I can't see. Oh, the bar on the top overlaps. Oh, here we go. Slideshow from beginning. There we go. Okay, so we're at 350 North Main in El Presidio Historic District. There's the original home here, was actually built 30 years ago, designed by Corky, built by Michael Keith. And then I designed the front addition and the garden wall and the little porch enclosure only 25 years ago. Here's our context on Main. We are this little yellow zigzag of non-contributing properties. Also, the property just north, the artist Jana's home was built in the 90s, is non-contributing, but on our block, we have a variety of roof types and roof forms and building setbacks, although we've established a prevailing setback, I think, of 6 feet. Although actually in the room addition, it doesn't really matter because it's part of the existing house. I was rethinking this a little too much. So here we are, there's our house. Oh, I should have updated this. This is not, that's separate. The addition is not this review. We're looking at adding a room on the very end of the existing house. Let me zoom on. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, I scavenged this presentation from last year's. So we're talking about adding a room here at the very end of the existing home, the 1993 home. This is seen from the backyard looking back to the west. You see the original roof shape, a roof form is a wedge. Here's the south elevation. There's the 1993 Corky design. There's my 1998 addition. And we're talking about adding this little element here to basically extend the porch another 11 feet and add this this single room on the end. There's an existing adobe garden wall. So here's our plan. There's the original house. This is currently just a little alcove with a garden wall and an evap cooler hanging off the side of the building. So we're thinking we'll just enclose that with a wall of books. Would also like to do at this time a solar array, although I understand that's a completely separate review process. So we're not seeking that yet. The solar company technicians for sustainability wants to see our final electrical plans before they do their design. But the roof of the original house from 93 is all corrugated metal. It's sloping, single slope shed type roof. My addition from 98 is actually a rectangular flat roof parapet type. And we're proposing kind of a hybrid here with a pitched parapet following the slope of the original house, so we can conceal the evap cooler on the roof behind a parapet. I'll go into detail here. The enlarged floor plan, oops, darn, what did I do? Oh, the trigger finger there. This is a doorway into the existing house. We'd have a single window opposite, which is actually at the end of a hallway, so there'd be daylight still. Here's a washer dryer with some linen storage on either side, and a wall of books, floor to ceiling books on that west wall. Now, the adobe wall that wraps around is 10 inches thick, and it's been out in the weather for 30 years. Oh gosh, hold on, I'm sorry. So rather than using it as a support, we're proposing to come inside with a steel stud frame wall that will carry the new roof of the proposed room addition. It also gives us 3.5 inches of insulation space. It gives us electrical conduit space and outlet space. It gives us plasterboard sheetrock finish. So we're not relying on the adobe wall for structure. It's just basically there as an enclosure. So, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. The mouse is just like so sensitive. I should use the arrow keys, not the mouse. Okay. So that's the floor plan. Here are sections. We're proposing that the, let's see, actually that, hey, Christian? Oh, I got it. Let's see if this works. It does work. I got this little cursor here that I could use instead of the mouse. So we're proposing to do a simple low slope roof behind a parapet. Here's the evap cooler. It's a master cool unit. These are the cabinets around the laundry. And here's a single high window proposed above that. And this, let's see, let's go back. Okay, I jumped through the elevation. So the idea of the elevations is we would have a sloped wall on the east facing the backyard. We would have a level wall on the north aligned with the main house. And it would be finished with vertical corrugated ribbed siding, galvanized to match the house. That same finish would turn the corner on the east, and it's tall enough that it would provide the required guardrail for worker safety for someone maintaining the cooler on the roof. We'd have a little access hatch here that you could set a ladder in and open that little gate. So the worker climbing up on the roof to maintain the evap cooler has a ladder that is held in place by the parapet opening. Below we have the existing adobe wall, which is here. And we will cope it with sheet metal flashing to protect the top of it, because we know that water sheeting off this surface would collect on the top of the adobe wall, which is already somewhat weathered. This is the single window we've proposed on the east. We would notch that into the existing adobe, put a wood lintel across. And the south wall has the same pattern of windows that we see in the 1993 house on the north elevation. Okay, that's the south elevation, mislabeled. Oops, that's the south elevation, north. Sorry about that, guys. Darn it. South. That is correct. That is east. That is south. That's correct. And that is north. That's correct. Anyway, we're picking up this pattern of two operable windows flanking a door with a transom. And so the new addition would reflect the original configuration. There's another material in the existing house, which is a blue painted beadboard, which is below the current windows in the restroom. We propose to have that same blue beadboard siding on our south elevation of this library laundry addition.
Mm.
So let's see, and there's the sections. Essentially, we're providing air into the existing duct that was put in back 30 years ago with a new evap cooler, a new master cool type unit. Here's the porch on the south side of the original house from 1993 that we're proposing to extend. Essentially the same type of 6x6 post and 6x8 beam. We would just continue it until it, met the wall here. These little openings will stay at the end of the hall looking into the backyard. This is a little adobe storage building from the earlier period. So here's the area of the proposed addition where we would come inside this adobe wall, extend up to create a parapet that then slopes down, matching the slope of the existing house. And the laundry goes along this wall, and the bookshelves go along this wall here.
Hmm.
Oops, come on, guys. Oop. Okay, there's another view of that. So essentially we would continue the porch roof, but the porch roof would stop on top of the wall here to leave an opening for the flat roof to be added in here. This ramada would go away under this plan. Here's a view of the north wall on the east corner. You can see that this adobe wall was built after the main house was built. I think the reason for the difference in color is it appears that the original home in 1993 had an adobe, maybe a slurry painted over it to protect the surface from erosion. And this garden wall did not have that same treatment. And the garden wall is 8 feet high, so obviously not high enough to support a building. So that's where we are. I apologize for jumping around as much as I did, but I am at a pause where I will take your questions and comments.
Thank you very much. Bob, who would like to start with questions?
I'll start. I mean, I think it was a clear presentation. The only question I have was that little low wall that exists. Yeah,
Mhm.
is that to be maintained? I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
The-
well, that wall will stay.
The one on the south, though.
Oh, I know the one you mean. This little guy here, these guys. Oh, so these,
Yeah.
no, these will have to go away because they
Yeah.
would be in the room. And we actually want to cannibalize these adobe blocks and use them to repair the base of the wall here, which has been eaten away, as you can see. I think what's been happening is this cooler has endemically, oops, let me zoom out. This, oh gosh, what did I do? The cooler's been leaking and squirting water on the wall, and then it soaks up and eats up the base of the wall. So yeah, that adobe, and this is all asphalt stabilized adobe from Old Pueblo, Bob Barnes's outfit, which is what the original house was built of. So we've got material on site for maintenance.
Cool. And then the brick paving, does that get extended as well?
Yes, the
match?
patio would, yes, the patio would continue with the same brick paving as is currently there, which I believe we called out on the plan. If we didn't, we should have. Yes, it's shown there graphically. Yeah,
Okay.
the brick paving and the row-lock edge would just continue down to meet the existing adobe wall.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anything else, Savannah?
No?
Okay, Joel or Carol?
Yeah, this is Joel. I only have one question. I was taking a note when Bob, you talked about a blue painted beadboard that matches something, and can you run back to that and show me where the beadboard is that the new beadboard will be matching? Am I asking that question right even?
Yep, I got it. Yep.
Okay.
So the on drawing 1, which is actually the south elevation labeled north, the beadboard is in this recess of the existing house where the adobe wall actually turns back. As you can see, there's a bedroom on each side, and this is a little bathroom. So that wall is a frame wall with beadboard, and then these
Okay.
walls come out as adobe. And there's the wall of the kitchen that also has blue beadboard. And so we were thinking we would just use that same treatment at that frame, because we're basically building with frame. I try to remember the name of it's got a great name, the blue. I think it's like celestial blue is what it's called.
Yeah.
Um,
To close off the end of that room.
yes, exactly. It would happen right, it would basically be right here, because we're not using adobe. It would be, that wall would then be in sync with the other little frame infill walls on that south elevation that's labeled north.
All right, good deal. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, just a comment on that, like, since Joel brought it up, the precedent is that there's a recess from the main, and it doesn't look like I mean, I know you're tight for space, so it's probably not possible, but is there some amount of recess that would happen just to kind of continue that pattern or precedent?
Yeah, I think we would want to hold it back a few inches, because as you
Okay.
know, it's really tough to bring 2 different materials together, especially adobe. So I think we would have to hold that back and maybe do a little reveal there. Because yeah, the adobe is pretty uneven by its nature. So I think, yes, but yeah, it is true. If we held it back as far as these are held back, it would really impinge on the functionality of the room. I think we need that space for the lineal footage of books that we need to accommodate.
A couple inches is appreciated, though. That gets at
Okay.
the idea.
Yeah, I think it makes sense from the construction point of view also that we hold it back and maybe die it into a little recess. So we distinguish the, adobe from the frame.
That would look good. Okay. Joel, is that you?
That's it. Yeah, no, and we go for as presented,
Okay, Carol?
I really didn't have much. I think I noticed you had a downspout on the other side for rain, and I know there's been erosion from the swamp cooler. Is that going to sort of mitigate any water buildup up there on the roof from the
Yeah,
cooler?
we'll definitely pay attention to that because we want to make sure that water is conducted away from the base of the wall. And we haven't gotten into the details yet, but I think we'd have a little stone, maybe a flagstone what would we call that? A splash block here, so that water coming off the roof would not go into the ground, but hit a stone that would direct it away from the base of the wall. Because yeah, you're right, that concentrating water at the base of an adobe wall is a problem. So we will take that into account in the next phase of construction drawings.
Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like if we're done with questions, we need to think about a motion. Do we want to include in a motion what Carol just mentioned about that drainage, about any corrections to the plans that need to be made for directionality and so forth? What else are we missing?
I can make a motion,
Okay,
Terry,
cool.
about the splash block, the
Go for it.
recess beadboard, and then I think the Presidio mentioned just ensuring the equipment's not visible from the street.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Alrighty. Is there anything else?
Anyone? No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, on the matter of SD-0523-00053 at 350 North Main, I move to recommend approval of the project as presented with the following notes: that the equipment is ensured not to be visible from the street, that the beadboard at the addition or the enclosure is recessed a few inches from the face of the adobe, and that there's a splash block at the bottom of the downspout.
Okay, is there a second?
Oh, second, yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Joel. All right, any further discussion? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Terry votes aye. Savannah,
Aye.
Joel,
I,
Carol.
I,
Thank you. It's passed unanimously. And Bob, I know you know the drill, but you have the option of having Jody review it for you, the next steps.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
right.
take care. Nice to see you.
Igualmente. Bye.
Great. Okay, let's go on to item 3C. This is for Activate El Presidio, multiple locations within the El Presidio Historic Preservation Zone. This is for installation of lighting, street art, plantings, and site furnishings at various locations in El Presidio. Now, this is a courtesy review. It's a contributing resource. And we'll be using the rehabilitation standards to frame our thoughts. And Jody, would you like to give us background?
Sure. This is, like you said, a courtesy review. It is to activate certain areas of the El Presidio. So there'll be, and I'm sure you've seen them around town and you've had other projects that you reviewed. Armory Park, in between Armory Park and the Children's Museum, had a similar thing where they painted the street and had some planters and stuff. This is a little bit more extensive where they'll actually have lights and planters and probably some murals and street painting to go and activate El Presidio area. Chris Stevie with Norris Design is here to present the project.
Okay, and I'm sorry, that's Chris Steve. See,
DBSTE, B as in boy, E.
and you're from Norris Design. Okay, thank
Correct.
you. Go
We
ahead.
like to say Norris like Chuck, but
I got it.
since this is a courtesy review, really, we have some presenting information here. Let me share my screen. I'll give you a quick overview of what we're looking at. It kind of need to be added, I think, to share screen.
Jody, could you do that?
Yep, hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's
But
doing.
while we're waiting on that, Jody gave a pretty good description of what we're looking at. It's all right away improvements, some very minor, just beyond right away, but there's no actual physical improvements to structures. It's purely cosmetic in nature, minus a couple parking spaces that are going to get a street area treatment. So an enclosed structure there that's not attached to anything, but is semi-permanent. Beyond that, it's mostly landscape, doing some lighting on poles and street art installations. Let's see if I get the, yep. Let me get the right screen. My screen is visible?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So to give a little context of the area, we're actually hitting 9 different areas. Context, this area, this is Alameda. Library, main library is right here. Old Town Artisans, La Casina is pretty much the heart of the district area. Tucson Museum of Art, Transamerica Building. I'm sure if you guys know the historic El Presidio neighborhood, you kind of know where we're talking about. So we have several areas. Most of them are right, adjacent to Old Town Artisans. There's 4 locations right around the blocking that. A couple spots that interact with Alameda to get that community draw. And there's one separated space up here that's more the El Charro, lot 175 block, and a small space at the corner of the museum or of the library to kind of start introducing the spaces and introducing the idea of materials and wayfinding. not going to bore you with planters. We did have one, I'll zoom in on this. One of our main ideas, or main, I don't want to say it's an idea, but directives from the neighborhood and from the working group that have been working on this project for several years is that character imagery and mostly the asphalt art or street art would be geometric patterning, and that geometric patterning and coloring would draw from the historic dome on the courthouse. So these are kind of zoom ins of potential characters that we're going to be trying to figure out how to draw. And we're currently discussing with Living Streets Alliance, who's the main kind of install contractor of those projects in the past in the city, and working out some patternings. But like, we've been using these as our inspiration ideas of, you know, angles, squares, mostly those types of patternings. Nothing literal reference to, as this zoom out, there we go. Nothing in a literal reference to animals, characters, artistic elements other than geometric patterns based on that dome shape. So here's the first area. We have some of our color hatching still on. Some of the street art areas got turned off in this, so the hatching's not showing so great. Like right here, there's a stripe here of, actually, let me back up. Where we're at, first off, this is the Presidio Museum. This is the main building of the Presidio Museum. Old Town Artisans is right here. So this is called Site 1. So it's just south of, or just north of Alameda. The main structures, main idea in this one is doing an actual sitting covered space here that interacts with more kind of creating an outdoor lobby on the El Presidio Museum. Actually, in this and Washington are the main areas that get physical improvement in front of the structure. Most of the work we're looking at doing is this darker tone is infill brick to fill in between the sidewalk and a wall, you know, so there's no trip hazard in there anymore. People could have seating on benches, things like that in the area. This structure here is the main built structure outside of Washington Street, which is ultimately a kind of closed street. Large planters able to hold a tree. They will be movable, so they're not a permanent structure. These two parking spaces are the only two parking spaces in the neighborhood that are being withdrawn from use. There's two spots right here. Everything else is staying as is. Maybe shifted around a little bit, but quantities of parking are not changing. Paez Street, which is directly west of the site we were just on, has some more striping, some street articulation to define space and to give it a little bit of zip. A couple of bump out corners for traffic calming at each corner down here and on this end. Our big thing on this street, or one of the big things, is there's 5 parking meter poles. We're gonna, working with Park Tucson, we're gonna put those into a kiosk style, and we're gonna use those poles and extend them taller to use for lighting, string lighting to get some verticality in this space, but nothing attached to historic buildings, nothing impacting historic buildings, nothing actually even touching the historic buildings. So we've been very, very cognizant of that and very aware of where we're at and what areas we can work in. But these two areas are pretty representative of where we're heading. A couple of these stripes that you see here that do cross the street correspond to the doors of the existing shops that are in here, to kind of highlight them and give them a little bit of indication and highlight. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. Instead of painting large areas, we could just do some sort of zip across the street and get it. And they don't necessarily define parking spaces, but it's a visual marker across the whole road. We can zoom in on Washington. Washington is where a lot of the main work's going. As if you're aware of the neighborhood, Washington's already closed. So we're taking advantage of that. That's been an agreement that's pretty well locked down. No attachments to structures, no attachments to La Cocina. We're doing the parking poles again in this area. There are some large electrical lines in this area running down this side of the street that would make it so we couldn't necessarily go across the street. Fire lane needs to be maintained. Structures in here, there's 1, 2, built streetery, shared space agreement structures in here. These 2 areas are just shade structures on pole mount. Everything's surface mounted to the street or the curb. No footers. Creating kind of a game space since the street's closed. And we can't use it for structure because it's fire lane. The colors, you know, this area have color. All these colors are all going to be representative of coming off of the historic dome. Nothing beyond that color scheme. Back one. Bike parking remains. Do a little planter or calling it the selfie wall, so it'll have some height. This might be the only thing that's actually, you know, structurally tall, 7 feet or so. Something with naming, branding, some signage on it for, you know, for the kids to do their Instagrams. More here. This space is kind of a cool space that I really enjoy. This is Alameda, Court Avenue, Tucson Museum of Art on the corner. There's this big expansive brick on the bottom on Alameda, and there's 2 nice downspouts off the building. So our intent is to do some brick removal in this area, create landscape space that captures that water and utilizes it for a benefit, can add some trees, some shade, create some seating nooks to activate that space a little more than just being a dead zone with bike parking and a bus stop. Again, corner bump outs that we're seeing around town for a little bit of traffic calming, pedestrian safety. And this is the only space that we're actually currently calling for moving across and attaching to buildings. But my recollection, Tucson Museum of Art building is not a historic structure. And we just have to work out an agreement with them to make sure we can do that. There is plans for potentially doing some muraling here to offset the existing muralings on Transamerica parking garage. But mostly in this space, it's surface level street paint on the sidewalks to draw people into the space, surface level on the sidewalks to draw people into the space. Rinse and repeat. Alameda and Maine, same idea, some planters, expand the landscape area in here to maximize landscape for the existing trees in this area, do some painting on there to start introducing that tone and that color pattern, and introduce the idea of bringing people into the neighborhood. This is a major gateway to historic Armory Park, so there's plans to do a gateway marker here, one on the other side of the street. Those will be some sort of plinth or column based with adobe or volcanic rock. We're doing sourcing currently, trying to figure out what we can find to do that with, but it'll be historic in nature or at least have materiality of that. You know, painting on the corners to bump out, slow traffic down, calm it out a little bit, introduce the neighborhood. The cool idea on this space is, since there's so many cool murals in here already, and there's a wall here that's being underused, of doing a panel wall on that top of that wall that could handle some rotating art pieces and or murals. So now we'd have some that actually face Alameda instead of being just down in the parking below grade. So this is kind of a nice idea to kind of introduce that corner, the gateway to the main neighborhood. Activate it out, try to draw some connections. Space 6 is mostly just within the existing Tucson Museum of Art courtyard. It's more of a connection to draw people from Presidio Park, past the donut, into this space, and then down into Tejas using brick, added landscape, adding some landscape trees, adding some planters, and some along this one sidewalk strip that's there existing. Surface level art paint treatments. Trying to be wary of doing things that are too permanent or too impactful of existing spaces. We really want to activate the space, make sure it's safe and clear, and that it creates a visual connection between different areas. It's mostly our goal. This space does add a benefit of having existing shade. So creating some seating in here for people to actually utilize this building. There's a lot of school camps and school things that happen here. So there's a lot of kids running in and out here, a lot of parents doing drop off, and a lot of admin for the museum. So activating that space a little more. Right now it's pretty dead. So giant expanse of concrete. So that was a goal in this space, to kind of create a couple nooks under those trees. Utilize the existing historic signage in there. There's some historic path light, street light features in here. This one right here, I think, is a historic. They're not quite Armory Park lights, but they have that same vibe. The balls in the silver and black.
And where would those go again, Chris? The streetlights?
They're existing.
They're
There's
existing,
one
okay,
right here, and there's one right here. Where
Okay.
yeah, we're not planning on doing any changes to anything that's existing
Okay.
that way.
Good.
Transamerica is more just I went back one. Transamerica is next one. It's more just a landscape enhancement and cleaning up and starting to introduce the language of the pots and benches and table seating areas. And an idea we do have is those existing traffic signal lights in the downtown, where they're the perfect size to put some wayfinding inside. So we're working with DTM on coordinating getting some wayfinding signage inserted, some simple frames put in there. But this space here is mostly just a cleanup and a delineation of some seating and what the private versus public space are around Transamerica building. Currently working with this project property manager group. There's some tenant improvements that are potentially coming our way that we need to try to interact with. New restaurant and potentially another tenant taking over the tunnel or parts of the tunnel space. And I think next big space is the library corner. Activate this by creating it just more shade, tons of trees in the space, some pole lights up on the existing walls to get some string lighting in there. Those are really just mounted on the walls, no footers. My favorite part actually of this whole space is our idea for the eyebrow. This area of the park is currently, what do they call it? Adopt a Park or Adopt a, it's sponsored by City High, who have a pretty good presence in the downtown area. So thinking there's some sort of art interaction we can have with City High to do something in this space and have them have a little more ownership than just a placard on the sign that says they sponsored this space. And the biggest space here, this is El Charro block. We call it internally, north half of the streets on the left panel, south half of the streets on the south panel. So Council's on the bottom, Franklin's on the top. This is mostly a bump out for pedestrian safety. Bump out for pedestrian safety, kind of close this space out a little bit, slow traffic down, making that turn. Parking stays the same, kiosk style. So now we can borrow those parking meter poles and create a pretty dynamic overhead lit space all the way down that block. I think that's gonna be a pretty generous draw visually from all the way across that parking lot. Beyond that, some planters, seating areas set up within the parking lot. Nothing within the main street on this space. I think we can create a pretty dynamic space here that wants to draw people, but also not impacting a lot of the traffic flow or parking criteria that are around El Charro. We know that's a very busy block on most nights. So we wanted to kind of enhance that space, but not really impact its function too much. And that's our 9 spaces, even though this still says 10. We had one that went away that it's not really viable as a space anymore due to some areas being not wanting to be improved.
Okay, PRS members, do you have questions? Who would like to start or comments?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Most of the plantings will be in planters, or are any of them going to be the trees? Are they going to be in the ground themselves, or? And
There is one planter area here in front of the El Presidio Museum that are existing planters that we're going to just enhance with some additional plantings. Everything else is in movable planters.
immovable planters, and how will you water that? Will they be?
It's going to be, at this time, we're anticipating it's going to be a combination effort between Downtown Tucson Partnership and the frontage of, if it's in front of like the museum, we anticipate that there may be some assistance there at getting water, to getting staff to water those or provide water. There is some water available off of the corner building here, but we're trying not to impact private. There's no city-owned water available.
Okay, I just noticed around town that often there are these grand plans to put shade trees and all in. And the trees are put in, but then they're never watered and they die. So I was just wondering, and then of course with the watering, if it's adjacent to a historic property, there can be issues if the planter is attached to the building, but it looks like most of these are going to be away from the building and separate, right? Will not-
Correct. Any of the
and
trees,
not leaking
like the
water.
trees that are shown. Yeah. These trees, these are inside the actual, inside curb. So they're on the actual street surface. These larger tree ones are 5 by 5, 5 foot by 5 foot by 30-inch deep planter. So by movable, I mean movable with machines. For some of them are movable like regular, but you'll definitely need a forklift to move them with soil and trees that are in them. But they technically would be movable if you needed to move them out of the way. Take that parking space over again. It can be moved down the block or into another space.
Okay, Carol, anything else?
No, I think that was my only issue, and I was just wondering about the watering and whether there was going to be any reclaimed water or runoff. You did mention one where you were going to, by the museum, where you were going to use the runoff to help water. So
Yeah,
I was curious about that.
this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 existing downspouts there that we're going to try to capture some of that water, and also at the other side of the museum, there's a downspout right here, and this is all just dirt right now. So adding some plants in there that with a little bit of berming, catch some water, be beneficial, try to do what we can to use those resources. But yes, part of our budget and part of our mandate is to include 3 years of maintenance. So we're working those agreements right now to make sure that we have an agreement somewhere that someone's going to say, yes, they're going to water these for at least 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I had a quick question. Jody, do you think with the amount of planting, should this have gone to historic landscapes for a courtesy review?
I mean, it's not a park, it's not designated, it's streetscape
Well,
primarily.
and they do look at streetscape as well. I'm just concerned, like, I have no idea about if these are appropriate plants, if they're, desert appropriate. if landscape architects who deal with desert plantings reviewed them. And Historic Landscapes does a lot of review because they have landscape architects that work, you know, with historic things. So
Well-
I wonder, there's a lot going on here that is very difficult to review in 30 minutes.
So this is a project, this is just a courtesy review right now. They will have to come back through to officially go through El Presidio and you,
Okay,
because it is within the HPZ. So this is just a preliminary review. I know right before this meeting, they even made some modifications from what I had previously seen. So we can have them go to the landscape
I would like
subcommittee.
that. Yeah, that would really help with aspects of, you know, of the landscape, not just with vegetation, because it's to me, it's overwhelming. There's just so much going on here. You know, and
There's a lot of stuff.
yeah, there is. And I would really like to see Jody comment on, does it, all this addition of things, which are really nice, but does it affect any of the character defining features of the landscape of El Presidio? You know,
Okay.
okay, thanks. Those are my comments. Go
But I
ahead.
think to even comment on that, like why we're having this, why we were wanting to have this was to try to identify some of these questions, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that we
Absolutely.
could, you know what I mean? So we could identify them on the plan and maybe call it out better and clearer, you know?
Right, yeah. No, I appreciate that. And we appreciate the courtesy review very much. So let's see, who do we have? We haven't heard from Joel or Savannah.
This Joel, my questions tracked right along with yours and Carol's. You know, I was wondering whose water it was, when, who, how, when things would be watered, and it did seem to be out of my expectation of this committee because it's so intensive with plants and things like that. So I'm tracking with you guys. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Savannah.
Yeah, just a few things. And actually one of my comments was, yeah, it should go to landscapes. They'll have some, I think, good feedback.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that. I was curious, and this is probably just more because I walk this neighborhood daily, like Court and Franklin. What exactly are these corner bump outs you described? Is that actual curbing, or I just want a little more clarity on that.
No, like here, I'll go to actually right where you're talking, Court and Franklin.
My office is right there,
if
so I have a special interest.
If you're at Court and Franklin, like if you're familiar with the art project that was done on South 6th at the Children's Museum or Armory Park, that style would happen here with these circles are the flexible bollards that go up around those corners, and it's just a painted treatment on the surface of the asphalt with the flexible bollards defining that space.
Oh, okay.
So there's no physical improvement like curbing. Access ramps are not included in the scope. Curbing improvements aren't included in the scope. Sidewalk improvements, things like that aren't necessarily, unless there's something that's really just going to hurt someone. We have to fix, you know, a 5 by 5 square foot where that's probably going to happen. But beyond that, no.
Okay. I feel like that's a little disappointing to hear. Some of the curbing is not in great shape, especially with the water flowing it's like a gutter situation at the curb. So it's pretty torn up, but especially a lot of those curb ramps. So where
Right.
curb is broken, I would hope at least that would be fixed.
I can answer that direct, like why that's not happening is that this is the funding for this project is coming from Rio Nuevo, and they're not the city.
Okay. And how long does this paint
There's
even
a-
last?
This one that I'm sharing on my screen right now is 6th and University. And it looks a little bit older, but this was probably put down in 2019, maybe. It was pre-pandemic. It was like 2019, maybe 2020. It was early 2020 that this one was done. But these are the flexible bollards that he's talking about.
Okay.
Correct. And like if
Oh.
there's a physical crosswalk like this one's shown, none of the coloring or paint that we're working on would actually impact the physical crosswalk for safety reasons. And you know, there's definitely some engineering and safety stuff we have to adhere to.
What is the purpose of this? Is it to slow traffic, to improve safety? The bump outs?
Well, ultimately the bump outs, you know, create both of those situations, right? There's a little bit of a pedestrian refuge beyond the physical curb. They do act as a traffic calming to create more of a pedestrian focused area. And visually it creates a kind of the physical character of the space. That's what we've been mostly focusing on, not necessarily the traffic calming end of it, but more of this using it almost as a wayfinding element that we're starting to enter a zone that's more pedestrian oriented, more pedestrian friendly. And it's not just happening on one corner, it's happening on this corner, the next block down, the next block down, like it's creating a sequence of events. So that was kind of our thought process behind it, mostly not necessarily from the aspect of a traffic calming or a bike boulevard or a bike calming perspective, but that's a definite benefit.
Okay. Well, I guess I would just say this, a lot of these intersections, because of the way the water drains and chews up the edge, they're in bad shape. And so to paint over them just seems a little silly to me, but that's,
Yeah.
I know that's not you. And I mean, I appreciate the design and the effort and the thought that's put into it, and that there is, you know, these improvements happening. I guess the other question I had was, I didn't quite see how so I'm assuming that the paint patterns that you showed us, those will be within those filled bump out areas. Okay. And then like you mentioned you will have some new like light pole fixtures and signage. Is that something that we'll see in the finalized submittal as well? We'll be able to see what those look like.
Yeah, that's really kind of what one part I want to get here is like what aspects of this design really would fall into your purview, so I can really focus that information in on or would you just want to see a full CD set? I mean, we'll have CD sets that, I mean, we have details. They're, you know, we're at 90% done, so
Yeah.
we have details. It's just what within this group would be, you know, putting everyone to sleep versus actually being pertinent information to what we're trying to get looked at.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the engineering specifics would put us to sleep, but the colors and the site furniture, the light fixtures and the signage, I think we'd want to see what that all look like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do recommend that we think about the overall impacts of these improvements, these changes to the historic character of the neighborhood. You know, and so I think that has to be, and that I think we would help Jody in thinking about that too. And getting perspectives from the historic landscapes on the streetscape and so forth with those details would be great. And so, Jody, can you put them in touch with Steve and Helen?
Yeah, I'll talk to Steve and let him know that we have an item, Chris.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
so that-
And he's out for a little bit. I mean, he was on vacation. I'm not sure when he's coming back. They do have a meeting coming up soon, but they would have to allot some time to this. This isn't a 5-minute review. You know, to do it justice and to make contributions. So that's okay. But anyway, thank you. And so what's your schedule for the project, Chris?
ASAP.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, like as soon as we can turn around and get back, I think we have probably another 1 or 2 reviews like this one to kind of ID potential stumbling blocks or things that may be things we need to work on more, or And yeah, we'll be back in to do full reviews and actually have things we want to get approved or not approved. I would like to, I guess if we have a minute, the topic you were just on about historic character and how that, you know, a project like this is a little bit counter to historic developments, but at the same time is still within the realm of having pedestrian friendly, neighborhood oriented. Like the things we're trying to do are still how a historic neighborhood would interact, but what things, I think, what elements or fixtures would, I guess, rise to the top of your list as things you want to really be knowing or understanding to get a decision on, does this really impact the historic character of this district
Okay, what I
versus
mean
just
by,
being a temporary improvement?
yeah, what I mean by this is maybe it's not an issue because it's a temporary improvement, but as unfortunately in Tucson, many of the National Register
Tucson
districts,
temporary.
they do not have good, the National Register nominations probably need updating. And they probably didn't spend as much time talking about the streetscape or other features that, you know, let's imagine a neighborhood that is characterized by wide boulevards, unimpeded boulevards. I'm just making this up. I'm not saying that's all Presidio. So having stuff all over would be a problem, you know, for the National Register listing. But I think that, I mean, Jody, we have this nomination on the website, correct? On your website?
Correct.
Yeah, and we could look at it and likely, I mean, think about Winter Haven. One of the characteristics of that is sort of the vegetation that is not really deserty, right? You know, a lot of grass, a lot of other stuff like that. And so that is listed in the nomination as a character defining feature of that neighborhood. But it would be a problem if people immediately went to desert vegetation, tore up their lawns and put gravel in. You know what I'm saying? So I think we just have.
I do.
Yeah, and so that's just, you know, to do our due diligence, that's a question that has to be asked, I think. You know, maybe it's not an issue at all. Or,
Well, I mean, it's a topic we're keeping close to our design idea and as a filter, right? Like, is this stuff that's going to look out of place? Is it too modern or too contemporary or too, you know, slick for this space? But at the same time, not trying to be, for lack of better designer terms, Disneylandish of historic.
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
not trying to do
No,
just for the
it's
sake of old,
challenge.
making old.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and we appreciate that you're thinking about all that. And I think that we, you know, hopefully when you come back for full review, we won't have as many cases on. We, you know, have more designs, more things to look through from different perspectives, because that's the benefit of really this board with its varied membership. And you know, historic landscapes, we'll be able to look at it with a different eye. I think you'll appreciate that. So anyway, thank you.
And thank you guys for your time. I know this has been a little bit longer of a meeting. You know, I sit on another one of these panels and you get 4 or 5 cases in a row and it starts to be laborious. So thank you for hanging out.
Oh, sure. Thanks. And we'll see you again. Take care, Chris.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, item 3D, excuse me, is discovering community in the borderlands. This is installation of a sign. It's at 180 to 260 South Church. It's on the northern kiosk in the walkway along the TCC complex. It is a courtesy review. It's in the Tucson Community Center Historic Landscape. It's a contributing resource and will be using rehabilitation standards. And we, PRS members, we have reviewed things with this landscape previously. You know, the installation of various this and that's. And so this is not an unusual thing to see. And it's just unfortunate that maybe it didn't come earlier because they have a deadline to make. So that's why it was added sort of later in the process for this meeting. Isn't that correct, Jody?
Correct.
Yeah. So so Jody, do you have background on it? And do we have Lisa here to present?
Lisa is here, and she is ready to present. It is, for all intents and purposes, a sign / poster that's going to be installed on a kiosk within the TCC to celebrate and provide history of Asian Americans presence here in Tucson. But I will let Lisa talk more on that.
Nice, thank you. Go
Hello,
ahead, Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
thank you for having me at the meeting. I'm sorry, there may be noise. I'm sitting outside at the U of A. I'm in a training and had to slip out, so I apologize ahead if some students walk by.
Okay, and Lisa, what's your affiliation? Are you?
Yeah,
Are you?
sure. I am with the Arizona State Museum, which is part of the University of Arizona.
Right.
And the project I'm speaking about is called Discovering Community in the Borderlands. It is funded through a federal grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services and a grant from the University of Arizona's Digital Borderlands project from the UA Library. We have 6 different community partners, or 5 different community partners and 3 UA partners: the Arizona State Museum, the Center for Digital Humanities, and the Poetry Center at the U. The community partners are the Tucson Chinese Cultural Center, the Dunbar Pavilion, Mission Gardens, Borderlands Theater, and Pasco Yaqui Department of Language and Culture. And what we're doing is creating augmented reality experiences that are mini exhibits, so to speak. And the only thing that goes in any of these sites is a sign with a QR code on. And you scan the QR code and it triggers the experience.
Okay.
So already installed is the Dunbar Pavilion. It's on the fence surrounding Dunbar Pavilion. It's just a sign. And the Tucson Chinese Cultural Center has one. We worked with the city and there is one installed at Bonita Park. That one is a little different because it's multiple signs. We did that one with Borderlands, and they wanted to follow a walking pathway. So, but most of them are just one sign. So the one I wanted to speak to you about, there'll also be one. So the ones that are not up yet is Mission Gardens will have one at Mission Gardens. The Pasco Yaqui tribe is going to have one at their administration building. These are all outside, except for the Chinese Cultural Center one. And Arizona State Museum will have one in front of our building, which will focus on art and basketry. Each deals with a little bit of the history and culture that is related to that community. So the one that I'm presenting to you looks at materials that came out of the Tucson Urban Renewal Archaeological Project, which the collections belong to Arizona State Museum and to special collections at the University of Arizona Library. And so we've pulled from both to create this experience. Oh, you have it up. I was about to show that. Okay.
Oh.
So that QR code doesn't work. I think the red says not working. It's just a sample, but you would scan this QR code. This sign is slightly different than the other signs in that we made it a little larger to add in the map because we thought it was important for people to see where at the site we were talking about, and a picture of the Ying An building, which is part of our display. So when somebody scans this QR code, and this is a draft of the design of the sign. Somebody scans the QR code for this experience. There is a 2D video that they will pull up that was produced by the Chinese Cultural Center, telling the history, a little bit of the history of the site and how the materials came to be and the importance of preservation. And then, so it has some historic photos. It also is the link between families in Tucson and families in China through some letters and through some identity cards that a scholar that we hired through an Arizona Humanities grant the Chinese Cultural Center got, Dr. Laura Ning, was able to do research on and find out some of the families that lived in that block that linked up to the Ying An building. The Ying An building, from what we can tell, is sort of slightly under the music hall and between there and the Hotel Arizona building. So that's where we think this all was located. And so when you go into the experience, you see the video, and then it links you to, there's 3D objects that you can kind of manipulate that are from the collections. There's a photo wall of historic photos with a voiceover describing them, and talks about the ID cards among other pictures from the block. And then this is a piece of a picture of the Richie Lou Cafe that was downtown. They also have some Chinese letters where we had them translate it, but what we're doing is highlighting different lines of it and popping it out so you can see the translation. And there's also I think we're using a map and questions that were for prepping for the immigration exam to come into the country. So the whole experience is in your phone. It's digital. We don't do anything to the landscape except for put up a sign. And I'm working with Jude Cook to come up with a way to install the sign. And Helen had told me about the one that's already up there about Bustamante, and we'd looked at that. And what Jude told me is there's 3 different options. The graphic is about 48 by 48. He said it could be done on polycarbonate, which is a type of plastic and very resistant to breaking. I would propose a digital print with a clear laminate applied to the polycarbonate and anchored to the wall or the concrete pillar there that you saw. And this is the northern pillar on the walkway. That's the closest pillar to where the location was. We wanted to put it on the fence, actually overlooking where it would have been, but we were told that because of the historic designation, we couldn't do that. So Helen recommended the pillars that were, I guess, conceived of in its later dates to be used that way. And then the other options that Jude proposed is another possible method would be to build a frame, much like the existing sign, and anchor it to the column with a polycarbonate face held in with a metal retainer. And a third possibility would be to do the graphics and apply it directly to the column, like the graphics you see net currently on the Flynn building. So they're screened on a material and that material is applied directly. I think the least invasive is the first one, where it's a digital print with a clear laminate on polycarbonate and then anchored to the concrete wall. But it would have to have something to anchor to, which means a hole. So that's the only problem. And it was referred to as I didn't know that this was a historic designation. We didn't know that who we had to get permission to. We started with the city office with Kate Calhoun, and then she eventually referred us over. Well, actually, I talked to Andy Zelnio, and she told us we needed to speak to somebody on this department because Andy is our graphic designer at our museum, but she is not the designer of this sign. She does our exhibits. So the sign design is similar, and if I could share, I could show you some other ones at other sites, and that's why we have that design. So here is, let me pull it up. Here, this one, if you can all see it, this is the one at Dunbar on the fence, and theirs is on a polycarbonate backing that is, or actually it's on a metal-like backing, but it's just.
Excuse me, my thing is blank. My computer's
Yeah,
blank.
Lisa, it's just
Oh, it
white.
didn't work? Okay, so
Mine too.
let me do it again. Let me try a different method. Here you go. Let's see if this works. Do you see it now?
I do.
So this is the Dunbar one. So you can see that the top part is always the same. We have a palette of colors we using. We want people to visually be able to know, oh, this is another one of those augmented reality or AR
Yeah.
experiences. They often have a historic photo and they have the QR code and a little information. Dunbar was the first we did. Let me show you another one. I'm going to make sure you can see it. So I'm going to stop, and this is the one, and the city decided how this would be installed, and they installed it. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Because I'm not seeing the same one you are. Let's see where. Okay, so this is the one that's down at outside the wall of the Garden of Gethsemane at Bonita Park. This is their main sign. They have some smaller signs that are down there as well. Theirs was bilingual, so they had 2 QR codes to scan.
Hmm.
And you can see again a historic type of photo. And then if I don't have all of them, but let me. So this is the one that you already saw that we're in draft form proposing to put it. So when, let me get my notes from Jude. When Jude said that we could anchor it either into the wall of the concrete wall of the pillar there, or create a sign and somehow anchor it, build a frame. There was one. Yeah, with a metal retainer. And the picture that we saw, they covered this area up here. And can you see where my cursor's moving? Where those, I don't know if those are lights. I'm not sure what those things are sticking out, but they put on the other pillar, there's a frame a metal frame that goes over, and I guess the sign is anchored to that.
Mm.
I think it doesn't look as good. It looks clunkier having a frame around the sign and all, and theirs has like plexi over it, which we don't need. It adds additional bulk. And then you can see in the corner here, the Flynn building, and you can see there's a historic photo. They have, Jude didn't install these, but he knows how they did. And they're basically look like they're painted on the surface, but it's printed on something and then adhered to the surface. And theirs have a QR code on it, but when you scan theirs, you just get a credit line. It's not very compelling. Whereas ours, you get a whole experience, and you have sound, and you have movement and objects and people that are animating the history back into the area that is underneath the current concrete structure that is the TCC Plaza there. So. Oh, and I was talking about the deadlines. Our signage is paid for through the UA library grant. And I tried to get an extension and they wouldn't give us any further time. And so we have to have at least the money spent. It doesn't necessarily have to be installed, though it should be, by August 30th. And so that's why it's so tight. We are doing a community launch of all the sites that we have finished on August 30th at the main library. Because they are a QR code you scan, and I will show you. Let me real quickly bring it up for you. There is a website which is being still edited and worked on. Let me get this so you can see it. And there are people coming out of a building now, so I apologize if it's noisy. This is the website. So when you go to the website, all the different places are located on a map, and you can see them here. You can click on them and learn about it. So the Chinese Cultural Center, for example, it gives a little history of the Chinese Cultural Center. It describes the AR. There's a link to that center. But you can also experience the AR. So if on this website, on this one, it's an older one. We use Flipper, so you have to scan the QR code and it'll get you to it. Let me see if I go to one. I don't know if we have one that you can do without scanning at the moment. Let me see if Dunbar got changed or not. So part of Dunbar, it looks like, no, you have to scan that one too. So I guess we're doing it in a way now that I don't know if you have to scan them. It's Borderlands. Let's see. Let's go to Mercados. No, they don't have it up. Okay. I don't know. What's this? Like I said, I'm sorry, the website is not complete, but that it does
That's
give
okay.
you, yeah.
That's okay.
We also have writing out and things. So
Yeah.
it gives you an idea.
Okay, well, we better move on to questions and comments. I just wanted to say that I think it's an exciting project, but it just seems like you've had, and hopefully you have interacted with the communities that could really comment on the content or the images chosen.
Communities are designing this. It's not me designing these.
Yeah.
This one was done with the Chinese Cultural Center.
That's great. Yeah.
Dr.
And then the
Matt
Dunbar.
and ASM. Dunbar was all the activities, and the people presented are from Dunbar. Barbara Lewis was our key person on that.
Good.
Borderlands is based on their oral histories they did for their West Side Story production.
Mhm.
And, you know, they're all working in the community. It's not ASM creating the stories.
Mhm. No, but I'm saying that, I'm glad that, I picked that up on some of them, and I think that was great. And I just think that sort of the more modern technology, the signage, these kiosks will hopefully be, uh, it'll be interesting to a lot of the younger people that are used to this technology, and also a lot of older people that are getting into it and using sort of the QR code technology. I mean, it's a good thing. Anyway, other commissioners, you have comments? Savannah, I know you have to leave soon, so do you have anything?
No, I mean, I just echo you, Terry. I think it's great. I personally think the graphics look fantastic, but I can't really comment on the content. In terms of the sign, it seems like you're kind of fighting against this curved concrete wall, but I would kind of use Jude. It sounds like he's on your team to help you make a good decision.
That's great.
I would just want it to last. I'd want the colors to stay vibrant. So just anything that's gonna keep that.
It's a 2-year project because it takes server space and all, and the Center for Digital Humanities has promised to maintain it for 2 years.
Okay,
So
good.
the sign would only be up for 2 years.
Okay. Well, if the polycarbonate, does it curve? Can it kind of attach to the wall in a curved way like you're proposing?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry, that's a Jude question. I mean, the idea
Yeah.
is to design it so that it works with that space. And if he tells us it has to be a little smaller, we'll make it a little smaller. Or if it has to be 2 by 2, we'll, 2 images next to each other, we'll do that.
Mhm.
We'll work with him the best possible. Like I said, we originally wanted a sign that went up from the retaining wall that kept people from falling onto what was Jackson Street, and it angled so that you could stand there and look over where it was. But that I was told that would not fly. So we went to the kiosk.
Hmm.
And the easiest way, quite frankly, to do it on a kiosk is probably printing right on that, the way the Flynn did it.
Mhm.
Yeah, if that
I don't
lasts
know.
for 2 years, then yeah, maybe
And I
that
don't
would.
know if anybody knows how long the ones at the Flynn have been on, but they're black and white. This one's color. I don't know if that makes a difference. But I also don't know how you get that off the kiosk or anything like that, but I could talk to Jude about that possibility. He put that down as a third possibility.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Savannah? No, you're good. Okay. Joel or
No, I'm only sitting here nervous that we should go forward. So we be sure they can meet their deadline,
yeah, absolutely. Carol?
I think it's super cool for someone who's just trying to learn how to use the QR codes at a restaurant. I am a little challenged, but I think it's exciting and wonderful. I guess you'll just, in terms of figuring out the actual way to mount these signs and have them, I know that's kind of beyond the expertise, I think, of anybody here. I know it's kind of complicated when you're talking about things that are going to be out in the weather, but we'll go with what your consultants think are best. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel confident that Jude Cook can figure out something. I just need you all's blessing on either one of those ways or all 3 of them, whichever works best.
Well, so
I
our
guess-
review can only be a courtesy review, but I think we're supportive with, you working with the experts to come up with the best decisions. They all seem like viable to me, don't they, to everyone?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, you've really
Yeah.
thought about, your media where that you have to mount them on and all in the conditions. And I mean, you put a lot of time and thought into it, and all these grants. I know how that goes. It's like, oh no, it's almost time and they won't extend, and so. But best of luck with completing the project, and it's a great one.
Well, thank you. Do I need to come back to you all or go to anybody else, or can we just go ahead and install?
Well, all we're doing is providing you with feedback, and the record of our discussion will be in the legal action report that's prepared for this meeting. And that will be up on the website, on the Development Services website in about within a week or so, a
I'm
week,
sorry,
hopefully.
I didn't catch the beginning of that. What will be up on the,
Okay, it's called the legal action report, and that's basically the legal record of this meeting. And that essentially becomes the minutes when they're approved at our next meeting. But that comes, actually, it would be approved, Jody, right, at our meeting on the 24th. So those would be official minutes, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so if you can, include, if you can check, because these are going to be posted, Jody can send you the link where they'll be posted, or you can email me and I can send you the link. And, that would be good.
but, so I'm still unclear. Can we proceed to start creating this thing to put up,
Well,
or?
so are you, Jody, is this part of a section 106 because it's a federal grant?
Is it a federal grant? Are you getting federal monies for this?
Grant. She said it was federal.
Well, we have federal monies and the Mellon re-grant from the library, which is paying for the sign itself. Federal monies paid for the development of the huge big project, all of these, and each partner got monies from both grants to help with their time and production.
We have not done section 106 review on any of the other ones. I expect that the review was probably done through the partnership or the SHPO office, because that's not a review. I haven't done 106 for any of the other signs. And she doesn't, because it's more along the lines of a temporary poster. I clarified with our sign guru that it doesn't actually need a permit. The only thing that I would request is, once you and Jude figure out how you're going to attach the sign, I'd like to know how you're going to attach the sign.
Okay, I can do that.
And again, as a body, we don't make a yes or no decision. We make a recommendation to the planning director, who this wouldn't be under the purview. It's not part of a code review, correct, Jody? It's just a review because, you would ask because you were advised to ask us, right? And that's fine. And I think that and in the past, when we've done this, you can just include, the section from those minutes and say that, there were no objections to the project and some suggestions.
Who am I sending this to?
Well,
Lisa, you actually don't have to send it to anybody. You're putting it on city property. It's,
Right.
and as part of an AD review, I do those reviews and I can bring those, because it's in the National Register District, have brought it to PRS. So you don't have to worry about sending it to anybody. You're good to go.
Okay.
I just want to know how you're going to attach it.
And that's perfectly reasonable. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. This is, when I looked at the documents you had me fill out just to be at the meeting, I felt like I was reading Greek. So I'm
No,
not a
sorry,
planner or a developer. It was a little hard for me, but thank you very much. This has been very insightful.
great.
Thank
Thank you very much, and good luck with finalizing the project. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Mhm, bye-bye.
Bye.
So Savannah, you're leaving at 3. Savannah left at 3. Let me just read her message to everyone. She said that she reviewed Jody's property owner's cover letter and it sounded great to her. So we're going to try to go ahead and get through that and move forward. So we still have a quorum. So, okay. Item 4 then is update on city outreach to property owners in historic districts regarding potential impacts of code changes. Jody sent us 2 items to review. I hope everyone got those.
Yeah, so here's the letter that I put together, and then on the other item, the PowerPoint, I changed the language to include something for archaeology. Can you see the archaeology, the
yeah. Uh-huh.
part? So I changed it to include the question about archaeology that you all wanted. I thought it would probably be a good idea to actually include their main line just for people who don't email. And then I included the website. Apologies, my daughter is coming into the front door. So there'll be some noise, but I included the website for the full Secretary of the Interior standards so they can reference those too. And
Okay.
then
Yeah, I'm not seeing that you said you included the phone number for SHPO. I think you meant the general the general
the
email.
general phone number. The
I don't-
6
I don't see it in what I printed out from what you sent. It would be the 6 foot. Where am I not seeing that? 6 foot.
542-4009. It's right. Can you see this on my screen?
Yeah. But I'm not seeing the number. I'm seeing the 520 number, which is your office number.
Oh, no, you're looking at the letter. Sorry.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at what you had attached to us. I'm not seeing the phone number unless I'm missing it.
Hold on.
Yeah. And I did have just a question or two about the letter but I really like it.
So here's where I put the number. So
Oh.
I was trying to make this a little bit more succinct, so all the information is in one place. I mean, the letter is this is what we're doing, but the letter can be tossed. This is the one that has the actual information on it. So the website's down here for the Secretary of the Interior standards. Here's the contacts, the direct contacts. Here's the question about archaeology and contact for archaeology. And then here's the SHPO main line. So
Okay. Yeah, it's weird because the reason I ask is because I printed it out and in what you sent us earlier today, you must have updated it with that phone number later because it's not on my draft.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Send it to me again in case any commissioners ask about it and I can send them that. And you didn't make any further changes to the PowerPoint slide, right?
No, I didn't
No.
make any further
No,
change. And then I'll go back to and then here's the letter.
Okay, and I do have, let's see, I do have a couple questions that I can email you about, but okay, so if you look in the second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, the 6th line down, it's, however, if your property is solely designated as a National Register district, I think it's your property is solely designated as a contributor to,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I can.
As a contributor, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would put designated as a contributor. And then the next paragraph, it's to help understand what is it you're summarizing, what do we want to understand? The potential impacts of the code changes on the eligibility of your historic home? Or that's really what the information in the handout is all about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want me to send you that wording? Do you like that to help understand? Or do you know
Yeah,
what-
sure.
Okay, I can do that. But all right, I thought it was really great. Does anyone, Carol, do you or Joel have any comments?
No, it looks good to me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you doing that. And I think it will help people.
I do have, this is Joel. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Carol. I'm sorry. Did I?
No, you're fine.
I just have and I don't know. It's not really a specific comment. I think it's excellent also, except I kind of read it from the point of view of somebody who maybe has not heard of all this. And I think that's who we're sending it to, right? The people who might not understand this and have to be introduced to it. But somewhere in the first paragraph or somewhere, should we explain what non-contributor means? I before getting on this board, I didn't even know that language, you know what I mean? And I'm wondering if we should like in the first paragraph down at the bottom, it says, talks about your historic house. The design of a carport or elements could block the view of the historic house, which would render it non-contributing, forfeiting the property tax savings. And I'm wondering if we should say what that means, that it's could, you know, make it non-historical and then explain, you know, we call that non-contributing or something like that. I don't know, it's just some definition at some point of that technical language.
I can include that.
Yeah.
That'd be good. And is there any way of getting your really good website where you discuss all this? Getting a link to your website somewhere?
Sure. I mean,
I mean, it's down at the bottom, but it's like you could say many of these things are discussed in, you know, on the website if you want further information. And a lot of people go to that and study it, you know?
okay.
Anyway, excellent job. Otherwise, that's just top notch. Very good.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and let me send you that wording. Those are really good comments. Anything else from you guys? No? All right.
And then once you get that information to me and I'll add the information about the non-contributor, I'll work on getting this sent out.
Done. And then if you just send me a copy of the final and all that, so I can send it to commissioners and we can say, hey, this is, we got this, Jody got this out.
Yeah, will do.
And all right, so let's head on then to, and thanks for doing all that, Jody. I know it's been a busy summer. Let's move on to item 5, task force on inclusivity report recommendations. 5A is discussion on best practices for naming the city and county on physical assets. Looks like Ricky will be coming on to plans review again at the end of, or next month, because her schedule will be firm by then, started, or her schedule changed. And Carol, you will be back from your trip and we can work, we can work on something and get it knocked out. Maybe we can have this on the September thing and just get it wrapped up.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, we can't do it before you leave. And poor Ricky's trying to manage too many things right now. So, all right, let's move on to item 6, current issues for information discussion. 6A is minor reviews. Is Michael here to tell us about that?
He's here.
I am. Yes, Madam Chair. During the last time we met to today, I believe we have done 4 minor reviews on site. I did that with Joy last Friday, and I did that joke and discussed most of what we found. The first one was at 911 North 6th Avenue, which was for a solar panel.
Yeah. This was we met on site. The Rick McDonald, who's the WUZAB chair, was there. Michael and I were there, and the young woman from the solar panel company was there. Her name, sorry, Michael, I've forgotten her name. Holly. Yeah, that's right. And the thing that the West University Rick McDonald noticed was that one set of the panels could be seen from 6th Avenue on one of the front positions that was suggested, so that we came to the conclusion that if it was possible without losing power, we would like those panels to be placed. There were several spots that we pointed out for her to place them if they didn't lose power. But if it did cause them to lose power, then we were okay with it. So that's how we left it. Have I got that, Michael?
Yes, you did. The next one we got was 740 East Speedway, which was for a sidewall, the one that had a parking lot around the church.
Yeah, that's the First Christian Church
Yes.
in Euclid. And they wanted they're closing in an area of their back playground for their little school there. And we looked at their plans and which seemed right in line with the character of the church and Wuna, nobody had any problem. And so we said, go ahead the way they planned it.
And the third one was at 707 East First Street, which is a proposed demolition of an already collapsing storage unit behind this property.
Yes, and this was a back house that is not listed as contributing in the inventory. It did have some adobe, so we looked that over carefully, and the adobe was completely dilapidated. I mean, it was almost a pile of dirt. The building was actually completely melted down and rotted. The whole superstructure was rotted out, and the roof had collapsed, the floors had collapsed, and there's just nothing left of the building. So our recommendation was go ahead and demolish it.
And on that one, in order to demolish, I also insisted that the applicant should take color photos of what is remaining there, so that we could have some documentation of at least what the structure used to be. And he'll be submitting that alongside with his approval in order to get a demolition permit.
Yeah,
And-
I'm sorry about that, yeah. So-
Yeah, and the last one that we visited was in Amway Park. These first three are all in West University. This last one was in Amway Park, and we did deal with the chair of Amway Park. It is at 227 South Fifth Avenue, which is for a fence and 3 gates.
Yeah, and Michael and I sort of considered this a little separately because I got mixed up as to time and place, but we reviewed it, and the recommendation was that he go ahead and build a fence that looks like the fence on the property just north of him.
Yes.
And have I got that, Michael?
Yes,
Yeah, so,
certainly.
yeah.
So those are the 4 that were chair members of the subcommittee that we did last time. I do have about 3 more that I'm working on, and I think I'm going to send out an email for availability for somebody to help out with those 3. Well, there will be 220 East Speedway, that will be for doors and windows. It will be 219 East 2nd Street, that will be for solar panel. And there will be 804 South 6th in Amway Park, which will be for a fence. I have not yet worked on those and gotten them ready for review yet. I hope to do so as early as next week, and so I will send out a request for availability.
Okay, thank you. Let's look then, it's at appeals 6B. Are there any?
We do not have any appeals that we know of at this point in time.
Okay, 6C is zoning violations. Do we have any other than the ongoing usual?
No, yeah, apart from the usual, we have one which is actually active and in review now at 711/713 East Fifth Street. On that particular structure, it is going through West University review. As soon as West University reviews it and make their recommendation, it will be coming up to PRS.
Okay, tell me again, Michael, is it 711 to 713 East Fifth?
East Fifth Street. In
That's
West University.
Or
Yeah.
711 to, -713?
Yes,
Okay, and you'll see this anyway when you review it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. 60 is review process. Does anyone wish to bring anything up? I mean, I do want, I wasn't there for the end of the last meeting. Next meeting, I perhaps when everyone's on would like to talk, or when Carol's back, talk a little bit about the courtesy reviews. I just want to point out an error, Carol, you mentioned, I think if I understood you correctly on the recording, that if we put the courtesy reviews after the other reviews, then if we lost a quorum, we could still discuss. And that's not true. If we lose a quorum, we're done with the meeting. So it's just, we couldn't discuss them. We couldn't discuss anything. That's why the quorum is so important And
Well,
the
thanks for
criti-
that clarification, because I was thinking since we were just making a recommendation, not really doing a formal.
well, and I think we just need to be better about, focusing discussion, getting it moving along. And one of the reasons we do courtesy reviews is because there's no other place that these things are reviewed, and for some reason they need to be reviewed.
They're super important, they're very, very useful.
Yeah, and
I don't know if they couldn't be maybe reviewed from Jody's office first and then come to us in a little more of a, I guess, succinct, a little farther on. I don't know. They take a lot of time. I think they're really very useful, because plans aren't finalized, so it's a little more flexible to change.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different kinds of minor reviews, and Jody and her staff and Michael have already looked at many of these. So Jody had been working with the guy 10 East Broadway for a while, and this is the thorny one, and she wants our advice on it. So it would have been really helpful to perhaps have the LAR from the previous one, because if those notes hadn't been as detailed as they were, and that was over a year ago, we might not have remembered to ask him questions about, did X change from what we talked about over a year ago? So I mean, I think for these large projects, these ones that may turn into IAD projects, and my frustration is that they're expecting too much before they do a formal review, and that's not really fair. And Jody, you weren't there for that last one, but Michael, you can attest to it. I mean, it's like, we want you to give us a yes or no.
Yeah.
No, do that. We can't give you a yes or no anyway. We make a recommendation, but what do these people not understand, or are they so pushy that they just do this? What do you think?
I noticed that, as I know you're asking Jody, but that was another thing that, I found kind of, I guess, frustrating, is that they really wanted the final review, but that isn't a final review. We're just, they came back again and we were just going over the same, basically the same information.
The only thing that they did was really provide a color study, but and sometimes we may have to say, okay, you can have your courtesy review. But if we had that, if that could have been sent to us or just reminded us, look at this case, then we could have said, okay, just tell us what's different. And we finally got to that point, but it took a little bit because it's been a year and a half. Right. And so I think we did a good job, and that's an important project, but I'm not sure what he expected us. That Jody and Michael have told them over and over again that we don't give them the green light. So I think we're helping Jody out sometimes by saying those things again to the applicant, who's been likely pressuring her. I don't know. But anyway, I think it was a good discussion, Matt. But are there other review process issues that people want to bring up before we wrap up?
I would actually.
Okay.
So we've started to kind of look at maybe doing hybrid meetings. We have done a hybrid meeting with Fort Lowell after we got past the technical issues. It worked out okay. I mean, obviously we would need to be in a place where we have Wi-Fi access, good Wi-Fi access, and the ability to project either on a screen. Fort Lowell has a projector, so we were able to hook up my computer and do it that way. And then find a place that works, basically. So I don't know what the feeling is on PRS. There was a comment about it yesterday at the commission meeting, and I know, Terry, you were like, so it's just a thought I want to put out there for you. If this is something that you're interested in, doing a hybrid, or we can start looking at places. We have not the big conference room anymore on the 3rd floor because they kind of split it up.
Mhm.
But we can start looking around. So it's just, I'm just putting a thought in your head at this point.
Well, that'd be good. I think it'd be nice to talk about when we have everybody on. And I know that Ricky was saying that she would have to, she couldn't do it. I mean, a lot of people that fit it in during their work schedule
Yeah.
just simply can't take off the time.
At Fort Lowell, we had, I mean, it was truly a hybrid meeting. So we had the bulk of the members present, and then we had like one staff person and one of the board members, you know, online. So it, and there was a homeowner who turned in online. So it was truly a hybrid meeting.
Yeah, no, I think it could work, maybe for the full commission, only because I remember in the past, before you were with the city, Jody, they shuffled us around before we got to meet in your office, you know, before things.
Well, so I'm not speaking about the full commission
No,
being
no,
hybrid.
I know that, but what I'm saying is that, you know, we're a smaller group. I know that Savannah couldn't take off sometime. She pushes the envelope with taking off time from work for these meetings, as do I. And so, you know, I think that we cut off at least 2 hours from, you know, going and coming, parking, this and that. You know, if maybe we could try hybrid, I think we could talk about it, but I just think I don't know. What do you think applicants feel?
I don't know. I mean, some applicants like to be in person and some like to be online. They're just as split, I would say, as the commissioners.
Yeah, and you'd have to be, because we don't have printed plans anymore, because there used to be a lot of rushing, crinkling around of papers, and you could see things. Sometimes things were projected, but we're trying to just get into that over the years, you know. So I really think we need to think through the, you know, how thorough can we be? I think the hybrid is good because you're still recording the meeting with the transcription. And I remember, I just feel for Michael having to transcribe those minutes from like this poor recorder that barely worked. You know,
Yes.
thing.
So we're not going back to paper plans, and we're not,
You know that, yeah.
I refuse to go back to that tape recorder because it was difficult. And
Yeah,
and it didn't catch everybody, and like that didn't work at all.
Yeah.
So
But hybrid can work because I participate in hybrid Sunday school with my church. We created that during COVID. And then when we came back to in-person church, people still liked it. And people like me that, you know, I'm recovering in Missouri, I can attend Sunday school.
yeah.
And I mean, it can work if you have a good Zoom station. Good, the internet signal is critical. So you know, whatever people want to try. I mean, but I'd like to talk about it with the whole group.
Yeah, and I can bring it up again at the next meeting.
Oh, please do. All right. So you said that Fort Lowell has already gone back?
Well, we just had one meeting, and I expect the 22nd, we will have also try a hybrid, hopefully have better luck this time. We had some technical issues. They're my guinea pig, really. But it should go smoother this time.
Well, good. Anyway, anyone else want to bring something up? Okay, item 7 is summary of public comments. Were any received, Jody, by the deadline?
We did not receive any.
Thanks, or you would have given them to us. Tell us about future agenda items, item 8.
I expect that we will have potentially an IID project that'll come forward. And the fence that was in Fort Lowell, it's been a few months, but there was a fence that Fort Lowell members were concerned about. It was a solid fence in front of a building house that was kind of set back from Fort Lowell. So they'll be coming back.
Okay.
That's what I have right now.
All right. So if there are no other questions or future agenda item discussion, then I think we can go ahead and adjourn at 3:26. Thanks, everyone, and be prepared to, Carol, please do take a quick look at the draft LAR that I sent for the meeting on the 25th, to see if I
Yes,
captured.
I will. I'll do that today,
Yeah,
Terry.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I appreciate it, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
okay.
All right,
all right.
Thank you.
Good job.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.